Hope everybody's having a happy new year. Excited about our opportunity tomorrow to go up to Kansas and play the Jayhawks. They've got a great team as always, and our guys have been working hard in preparation. It's been a while since we played, so for us, this is just a great opportunity to get back competing on the court against someone other than ourselves. Our guys have done a good job in practice. Just trying to be the best we can be in that setting against each other. But again, as we get a chance to play Kansas, it's a test against a conference opponent, and obviously one of the top teams in our league.
We'll go ahead and start with questions. Brian Davis, go ahead, please, sir.
Hey, Shaka, Happy New Year.
Hey, man.
Hey, man. Not to start off, as the hype man, but 2021 begins with one of the biggest matchups this program has had in a long time in the regular season, a top 10 matchup on the road. I know your guys probably just see it as one game, but do you feel like this is a kind of moment of truth for your guys, going up against the big name in Kansas?
It's funny you use that statement because I feel like every time you're going after the ball, or every time you're defending a ball screen, or every time you're in a free throw blockout, that's a moment of truth. So it's something we talk about sometimes with our guys. Certainly every game is a chance to kind of show where you are and the growth that you've made. Again, for us, we haven't played in quite a while, so excited. Our guys are excited to get back on the court against anyone, let alone getting a chance to go up to Lawrence Fieldhouse and play against Kansas. But as I told the guys, if you play in the Big 12, you get a chance to go there once a year, and you want to put your best foot forward. They've got a great team. They've been shooting the heck out of the basketball, so it's going to be a heck of a defensive challenge for us.
Sure. And yesterday, Bill Self talked about he took the guys bowling and wanted to get them out of the dorms and just try to have a day of normalcy. I mean, what have y'all been doing to kind of break up the monotony of practice and COVID testing?
We really haven't been able to do a whole lot just because of the protocols. In terms of, like, normally this time of year, like I'd have the guys over to my house. We might go to a movie as a team, do certain things. We really haven't been able to do much of that. So it's been more, communication. We've had some Zooms. I know that's not necessarily breaking up the monotony for sure, but just, talking about who we want to be and where we want to be and the growth that we need to make. Our guys did get a chance to get a few days over the holidays, which I think was really important. And, they, like I said, they've been good with their approach towards practice, but now it's about, going into the game and being our best over the course of 40 minutes.
Dustin McComas, go ahead, please, sir.
Yeah, Shaka, you mentioned Kansas is shooting early on, and they're shooting the ball really well from beyond the arc, but you guys nationally are limiting three-point attempts at a really, really high rate as well. It doesn't really seem like that's like a focus, but what have you guys done on defense that's allowed you to kind of chase guys off the arc and prevent those open looks? And what kind of challenges does Kansas create there in that it seems like they really get the ball up the floor well, and sometimes they'll catch you in transition with those shooters?
Yeah, they do a great job of catching teams in, situations where you're not set, whether it's transition, off of offensive rebounds. I believe they had 19 offensive rebounds against West Virginia in their last game. Certainly made some three-point shots off of those. Just plays where you're not necessarily perfectly matched up. So it's our job to fly around and continue to help each other. If we have a teammate that rotates to take someone else's man, then we need to rotate to take his man, and so on throughout the possession. It's a game where multiple efforts is huge for our team. I don't think there's any game where it isn't big, but particularly when you're playing against Kansas, because they do a really good job of being prepared and just ready to make you pay if they're open. Guys like Christian Braun, Agbaji, those guys shooting the ball extremely well. And, there's a reason that they're playing with so much confidence.
Besides the obvious of any defense that has Marcus Garrett's probably going to be pretty good, what do you see from them defensively on tape that makes them such an efficient defensive group?
Aggressiveness, good length. They don't have many guys that, are kind of smaller guards. Most of the guys they play have really good length and size, can bother you. Garrett's obviously the best example of that with his physicality and aggressiveness. I've always kind of felt like they don't get as much credit, for defense because they're so good at offense. Just over the years, they're always, one of the best defensive teams, that I've seen over the course of different seasons. But yeah, they play with great aggressiveness. I think McCormick does a really good job of, being locked in and being aggressive for them and kind of bringing a level of physicality that's, sets a tone for them.
Roger Wallace, go ahead, please, sir.
Hey, Shaka, you lose the Baylor game the day before, and obviously the frustration there, but losing this game on Tuesday, how big was that because of the break you had, from the Oklahoma State game?
I mean, it's outside of our control, man. So it's not really even a situation where we sit there and say, man, how big of a, how big of a negative is this? I mean, the reality is, and I've said this before, I'll continue to say this throughout the year. When games get canceled in college basketball, the initial reaction from all of us is, man, that's a bummer. We wanted to play that game. But what it also says is that, people are taking the safety protocol seriously. And like in every other aspect of life in our country, there are going to be some alterations and some adjustments. And so, yeah, it was certainly we were disappointed. The guys were disappointed when that game got canceled from this past Tuesday. But at the same time, what we could control is just getting back on the practice court and working on getting better, preparing for this game.
I guess maybe I should have said, because of the timing of it, just, for coaching and for getting ready for a game of this magnitude, now you've got to simulate it for however long you practice rather than, have those game minutes under your belt from just a few days ago.
For sure. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where, you can kind of use it as an excuse or say, hey, we haven't done this or that, or you can just find a way to be your best anyway. And, I think coaches around the country are dealing with that. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday. He said, we played 2 games in 300 days. So, I didn't even think of how that could be possible until I kind of thought through it. But, it's just that's the era we're in. And that's all the more why, and our guys maybe get tired of hearing me say this, but the first feeling that we should have when we are able to take the court is gratitude. It is just, being thankful for the fact that, hey, we're out here, we're playing, we get to compete. And then from there, you get to choose, what you do with that.
Nick Morrow, go ahead, please, sir.
Hey, Shaka, Happy New Year. Just real quick, first off, do you happen to have any updates on, where Jace is with his progress?
He's making progress. Yeah, he's been practicing. He's been putting in a ton of work with our new athletic trainer, Warren Young. Those guys have been, just tireless in their approach towards getting him better. He's certainly not all the way back to 100%, but he looks like he's moving much, much better. And most importantly, he feels better. His confidence is growing. So, we're hopeful that we can get him out there very soon. Don't know exactly when that's going to be. It's a kind of an ongoing conversation with him and Warren and myself. But hopeful, Nick, that we can get him out there soon because, we're certainly going to need him.
And then, obviously, one of the main points that you talked about, especially coming into the season, was just making sure your guys play with a high level of violence on the court. And I think that's something that you're going to need to see against Kansas. So just in terms of that, where do you think they've been, playing with that level of violence that you want to see? And where do they need to be on Saturday against Kansas?
Well, I think anytime you play those guys, you certainly have to have the willingness, the audacity to say, hey, we're going to go up there and we're going to be the best of who we are, instead of getting, super caught up in anything that's outside of your control, whether it's the arena or, what it says on a jersey or anything else. So where we've been is, our guys have made progress in a lot of ways. Violence is something that, we promote as a team on the court, but it doesn't happen as a team unless the guys that make up the team play that way. So, it's a point that we make sometimes to our guys. We talk about all these team concepts, but in order for it to be a team concept, we need you to do it, and we need you to do it. And I think we've got some guys that have made some real progress. Obviously, Greg in our last game, that was probably his most violent game. Got 14 rebounds going after the basketball. Kai Jones has made a lot of progress from where he was, say, a year ago in that area, but still got a ways to go to get to where we want to be. And again, it's always a balance with fouling, making sure that we play with a level of aggressiveness, assertiveness without fouling. The fouls that we need to continue to work on cutting out are just the needless ones, over the back, on the offensive end when there's really not much of a chance to get that rebound. Maybe a reach in or a bump, 50 feet away from the basket that doesn't make as much sense.
Bob Ballou, go ahead, please, sir.
Happy New Year, Shaka. Is this Kansas team any different than the ones you faced in the past? Do you notice any differences in the Bill Self team that you see this year from the ones you played?
Well, I think, in recent years, they've really evolved, and, he's done a terrific job with just trying to figure out what makes the most sense for their team. If you think of Kansas historically, going back several years, it was always two bigs. It was always, I believe what they call two game, which is kind of a high-low offense that was really, really effective for them. And, spreading the floor with other guys, getting into pick and roll, but really playing through those two bigs quite a bit. Now McCormick is a big, big factor, but sometimes they play even without him. And so, there's times where they've got 5 perimeter guys on the floor with Jalen Wilson, who's a terrific guy that, I guess you would think of more as like a 4-3, almost, playing the 5. And then, now they got 5 guys that are 3-point shooting threats to put the ball on the floor, athletic, can move their feet. So that's kind of how they've evolved this year, Bob. And that's worked really, really well for them. It makes it challenging to match up with them, for opposing teams. But, it's for our guys, it's something that, we've got to be ready for. And, we've got to make sure that we stay aggressive.
And then second, this could be, it is Greg's first, but it could be his only trip to Lawrence. Is there something around him getting to go there for the first time, the mystique of it? Have the guys talked to him about that? Have you talked to him about just the presence of what Kansas is, as a basketball arena?
We talked a little bit about it yesterday. I think he's pretty familiar with, who they are and what they've done. I think they recruited him some. It's going to continue to be for him first time going to Kansas, first time, going on a true road game. They will continue to be first as we go. That's how it is for freshmen. It always seems like with a guy that is a most likely one and done, it always seems like, well, it's their first and their only, of doing something like this. So you want to make the most of it. But at the same time, the emphasis with him is to continue to grow and continue to do everything you can to make your team win in the moment. And if you can focus on making your team win, then a lot of good things are going to happen for you. And I think he's learning that. He's making progress in that area. He's been very receptive. He's done a lot of extra work. So we just got to keep at it.
3 last ones in the queue. Dennis, go ahead, please, sir.
Yeah, Coach, circling back to Brian's first question about statements, do you get the sense from your experienced guys who are talented and have been working at this for a while now in this program, do you get the sense that they want to prove that they belong among the nation's elite?
Well, I think our guys feel like they can play with anybody. And I know that our guys don't feel like they take a back seat to anyone. But at the end of the day, it's about going and playing the game and finding a way to win the game. At the same time, our guys understand that, when you play one game, you go after with everything you have, you go after the win. You do everything you can to, if you want to call it, make a statement, you do everything you can to do that. But you're still going to need to grow. You're still going to need to improve. It's still so incredibly early in the conference season.
And you talked about Greg. He really rose to the occasion when it got personal, if you want to use that word, against Oak State. Now that the stakes are up even more, do you expect him to, I guess, shine with the spotlight on him?
I expect him to continue to make progress. I expect him to do all the little things that we focus on that might not make it into you all's reports or might not make it into the stat sheet, but that go into winning for our team. Some of the most impactful plays that he made in our last game were on defense, and they may or may not have shown up on the stat sheet. With that being said, that game's over. He had a nice game, but if any of us are super impressed with something that we did as a team or individually on December 20th, and now it's January 1st, then that kind of says something about where we're at. So we need to really focus on having a great day of practice today, continue to move forward, put ourselves in the best position to start the game really well tomorrow and play for 40 minutes the best we absolutely can.
Benjamin from St. Louis, thank you for joining us. Go ahead, please, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, Coach, I'm with the St. Louis newspaper, so I wanted to write about Courtney Ramy. For our readers that know him as a big name out of high school but don't know much of what he's done or what he means to your college program, can you describe his role with the Longhorns?
Hard to describe his role. He's got a big one. That's probably the simplest way to describe it, but it doesn't necessarily do justice to everything that he does. Courtney, I don't know if I've ever seen a guy that's so impactful on his teammates with just the aura that he brings, the things that he says, the way he interacts with guys. Courtney does a lot of things behind the scenes that most of our guys really appreciate, that coaches might not even see unless they're really closely looking. He's a very good teammate. At the same time, he's the hardest on his teammates on the court. He's hard on himself as well. He can be hard on the coaches too, but he's a real competitor. He as won a couple state championships at Webster Groves in high school. And he's someone that really values winning. He's a guy that, to take our last game against Oklahoma State as an example, even in the games where he's not particularly playing his best on offense, he still finds ways to contribute to the team in other ways. And that was a great example. He really, really helped us on the defensive end in that game, even though it wasn't really his day from an offensive standpoint.
Thanks, Coach.
No problem.
Dustin McComas, you're last. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, Shaka, just to clarify on Jace, because the last time we talked to you, he wasn't fully cleared for 5-on-5. Is he fully cleared for 5-on-5 practice, or is that still something that he's got to that hurdle that he's got to get over? And also, too, I don't know when you guys test again or whatever, but are you guys full personnel going up to Kansas with all the COVID tracing and testing and stuff?
To answer the question on Jace, he has been practicing 5-on-5. It's something that really for the last several weeks, the doctor that did his surgery has said, from his standpoint that Jace was cleared, but the most important clearance needed to come from Jace, because with that particular surgery, it's a matter of kind of how the individual feels and how they're able to move. And obviously he's got the best feel for what's going on, with any type of pain or anything like that. So he has been practicing 5-on-5 live in practice. So it's just a matter of getting to the point where he says, I really feel comfortable with, the way it's feeling, and I'm ready to go in the game. From the standpoint of COVID testing, we have another one today. I'm really not allowed to give any type of particulars on, who's tested negative or any of those sorts of things. But we will have a guy or two that certainly cannot go with us on the trip. I can't really tell you much beyond that.